States Attorney appointed to that group?
I'm not sure if it was appointed to that group, but I know we usually try to get an Assistant United States Attorney onto the case as early as possible.
How early do you think, Mr. Newell, do you recollect that an Assistant United States Attorney was assigned to this case?
From the very beginning, sir.
From the very beginning?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did that Assistant United States Attorney, to your knowledge, communicate with the United States Attorney about this case?
To my knowledge, I don't know, sir.
You don't know the answer, but this case began somewhere in November of 2009, and we have testimony that by December of 2009, there was already concern about scores of weapons that were being recovered in Mexico. What was the response of the Assistant United States Attorney to that revelation?
Well, as outlined in the January 8th briefing paper, they felt that there was not enough evidence at that time to secure any warrants or to secure a prosecution, so to continue monitoring the sales.
Well, they continued monitoring the sales, but were they aware and did they believe that guns, ultimately thousands who were continuing to be trafficked, was this with the approval of the Assistant United States Attorney?
I'm not sure exactly what they were aware of, sir, but I know they were informed in
Mr. Gill, at any point in time, did you get a visit from anybody, and who was the highest person that visited you from the Department of Justice with respect to this matter?
To a certain extent, it would have been a DOJ contingent that visited us, I believe, during the summer or spring. And I believe it was Kevin Carwile. Lanny Brewer visited.
Lanny Brewer is the head of the criminal division. Is that not right?
At the time. I don't know where he is today. But
well, when did Mr. Brewer visit you in Mexico with respect to this case?
Would have to check the logs to be specific.
What's your recollection?
But I think it was the summer of
the summer. That would be after we already know that thousands of guns have been trafficked.
Yes.
Was that communicated to him?
By me, no.
By anybody to your awareness?
No, sir.
My time is passed. At this point in time, the Chair would recognize the gentlelady, Mrs. Maloney.
Well, I thank you. I thank you for recognizing me, and I am deeply concerned that while I was on the floor voting, that the Chairman, for whom I have tremendous respect, made derogatory remarks about Mrs. Norton and myself. And as I hear, I'd like to quote what he said. Mrs. Maloney, Ms. Norton, they are radically against the Second Amendment. They absolutely, positively do not want anyone having any guns. They're pretty straightforward about it. They'll say they respect the Second Amendment, but they've never seen a gun limitation they do not like. I would like to say that I support the Second Amendment, and I support legal guns for sportsmen, for law defense, for hunters, for self-defense. Just recently, one of our colleagues, Leonard Boswell, was literally someone broke into his home, and he thought his life was in danger. His grandson took a legal registered gun and got the intruder out of the home. I respect the right to own legal guns for self-defense for other reasons, but I do not support illegal guns that are fueling drug wars and putting lives at risk. In testimony before this committee, it was told that 40,000 people have died in the last 5 years on the border of Mexico. And it's what we have put forward is a simple statute that would prohibit gun trafficking in illegal guns to people who want to use them for illegal purposes. I think that is respecting law enforcement, helping law enforcement, and protecting lives on both sides of the border. And I must also say that the ATF agents who testified and were called by the majority to testify, they indicated that this would help them do their job and help them to protect innocent people in Mexico and in the United States of America. And I just really wanted to clarify that since I feel that Mrs. Norton and myself were attacked unfairly. And I do not think that a legitimate debate or ideas or legislation should be attacked in this unfair way. So I just would like to clarify that.
Would the gentlelady yield?
Absolutely.
Well, I stand corrected if in fact you're for the Second Amendment, and I will not consider the same with Ms. Norton, who said that my entire side of the aisle was owned by the NRA and some of hers, or somebody in the District of Columbia continues to support basically this being a gun-free zone in violation of the Second Amendment. But I take you at your word, and I'm sorry that I exaggerated to include you.
The gentlelady yields.
Absolutely.
Very briefly. I want to thank the Chairman for his apology. But I can attest to the fact, Mr. Chairman, that when the gentlelady and I introduced our recent bill, she basically said what she just said, that she had no problem. And I think there's a confusion comes in those of us who have seen over and over again the result of gun violence, those of us who go to the funerals, those of us who listen to the ATF agents who beg to make sure that we help them because they're fighting weapons of war. And that's what we're concerned about. We didn't, the ATF agents came in and said, some of them have said it today. So I yield back to the gentlelady, and I want to thank the Chairman.
I just want to also add that I think we both agree on both sides of the aisle that mistakes were made in the handling of Operation Fast and Furious, and we are legitimately trying to get answers and to look at this. But the larger issue that I feel is in danger of possibly being overlooked is the flow of illegal weapons. And we're not talking about regular guns. In the testimony from the agents, they call them military-style weapons. They were AK-47s, very special, deadly rifles. So these aren't normal guns. These are military guns. And this is a even larger issue than Fast and Furious, is to stop the flow of illegal guns. And I believe that on both sides of the aisle we can agree that illegal guns flowing into America or Mexico is something we need to address and stop as quickly as possible.
I thank the gentlelady. We now go to the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Farenthold, for his round.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to kind of bring this more back to where we were going, I think, with investigating Operation Fast and Furious as opposed to discussing the merits of any proposed new gun regulations or gun laws. Let me ask some of the gentlemen from ATF. If you remember the lessons we learned from 9/11, we found that we probably would have had a much better chance of stopping the attacks on the World Trade Center had the various organizations within our government been communicating with each other better. We spent millions of dollars on fusion centers for information sharing among agencies, and then I'm troubled to find here that you're basically running an investigation covering some of the same suspects, basically parallel investigations with the Drug Enforcement Administration, and there was an unwillingness to or failure to coordinate among those agencies. Would that be a fair assessment of what happened? There were multiple investigations and the DEA didn't know what you were up to and vice versa?
Sir, as far as I'm concerned, now it's the complete opposite of that. I think when we received funding to get our gun runner groups up and running, one of the first things we did was assign them to strike force groups so they could work hand in hand with the other agencies. And I think this case is an example of how that was one of the positive things out of this case. DEA had some information that they shared with us that helped us in our investigation and actually helped foster it even more so.
Then why weren't y'all coordinating and there were two different investigations going on? At the very least, that seems wasteful of the taxpayers' money.
I don't think from what I've seen that there were two different investigations. There was two parallel investigations. Okay. DEA obviously is going to focus on the narcotics. We focus on the firearms.
Okay. Well, I've got a couple other questions. I ran out of time last time going off on things that just struck me as odd. Mr. McMahon, during the pendency of Operation Fast and Furious, did you ever get the chance to go down to Mexico and visit with any of our folks down in Mexico?
I did, yes.
Did you speak to Mr. Canino?
I did.
And did he raise any concerns about the guns, so many guns tracing back to Phoenix?
Not that I recall, no.
Mr. Canino, did y'all discuss that? Do you recall?
Yeah, it wasn't anything specific. It was in passing. Like I said earlier, you know, and Mr. McMahon has been very supportive of our office in Mexico, and me personally. But like I stated earlier, when this case was going on, and when Darren asked me, "What do you think is going on?" Like I stated earlier, I thought the U.S. Attorney's Office in Phoenix is reluctant to let our guys make any arrests. Our guys have stumbled onto a gun trafficking ring. They're doing the due diligence, and that's why so many guns have turned up in the suspect gun database so quickly. And 3, I thought that our guys were just losing them on surveillance, not being able to get to the gun store in time. That's what I thought at that time. You know, I didn't know that we had cooperators in a couple of the gun stores. So our concern, and I just said, hey, how come there's so many guns turning up so quickly?
And he didn't share with you what was going on.
Well, he said, hey, you know, we have a gun trafficking case in Phoenix, and you know the guys are doing a good job.
All right, Mr. McMahon, did Mr. Gill ever raise concerns over the number of weapons that were being recovered at crime scenes in Mexico?
Congressman, I think it's important to realize that guns were being covered in Mexico for quite a while, and we were all concerned about that. Guns were coming from Phoenix. They were coming from Texas. They were coming from that's what we did. That was our main focus in Mexico and obviously along the southwest border. It's for the past 4 years, it's where all of our resources, our new resources, have gone. This guns being recovered in crime scenes in Mexico from the U.S. is something that ATF has been putting everything we have into for the past quite a few years, as long as I've been in headquarters.
All right. Well, I see I'm once again run out of time, and I realize we're getting late, so I'll yield back. Thank you very much.
Thank the gentleman. Any more questions?
You know, as we wind this hearing down, I was just sitting here, I was thinking that, you know, this agency is very important. And we've heard now from 2 sets of agents, and all of whom seem, well, I know to be very dedicated to their jobs. And I think one of my greatest concerns as we go forward, Special Agent Newell and McMahon, since you're in supervisory type positions, you know, I just hope this does not hurt the morale of the organization. When I look at the emotions of Special Agent Canino and others, I mean, some kind of way we've got to make sure that we get back on track. I just think it's so important because the job that you do is, what, is only 1,800 of you all? It's not many.
That's correct, sir.
It's a small agency. And we can't afford to have division in this kind of agency. Would you agree, Special Agent McMahon?
I totally agree, sir. That's the highest priority for us right now, is to get our people back on track. Not a lot of us can have or show the passion that Carlos has, but I guarantee you we all have that. We might keep it inside a little bit more than Carlos does, but this is a passionate thing for all of us. Yeah, we talk about the Second Amendment, and I believe that we, ATF, are the defenders of the Second Amendment, and we have to follow that very fine line of what's part of the legal commerce and what's part of the illegal commerce, and that's part of the challenge, a challenge that we fully accept, and that's something that we were drilled into us from early on when we were in the Academy. It's something we fully accept, and it's something that we do every day. And as I said in my statement, I am very proud of the people that are out there now and have been out there in the past and the work that they're doing.
I'm going to go back to